Welcome back. I'm Michael Ray. You are listening to thought-provoking talk on Dresser After Dark. Lori Halterman with us, and she is a poet, she's an author, and she is the author of Alaurilee, Rhymes of a Random Soul. And let us say, Lori, hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, and thank you so much for being here. Poetry in and of itself is almost like a different language, isn't it?
True, yes.
Now, when you decide to put something to pen, what do you go through? Do you move yourself into a completely different world with thoughts and with words?
It just kind of takes me over, and it can hit me quite randomly, actually. I can hear it from a story. Actually, one of the poems that I wrote in the book was inspired by an ink blot. So it can be anything, and then once it hits me, it just kind of flows.
So, but that's with it, Rhymes of a Random Soul.
Uh-huh.
And aren't we mostly random souls?
Yes. Yeah, very much are.
Okay, when you first decided to put anything to pen, what was it that caused you to do that? You sat down one day and what?
I wrote when I was really young, and I think that was more inspired by teachers and school and different things like that and just expressing yourself. But when I started to write again, I had put my pen down for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Well, I was married, and when I put it down again, I was kind of in a really a downside of my life, a dark side, trying to find myself and going through an unhappy time in my marriage, and it kind of gave me an outlet. It helped me to breathe out a lot of the pain.
Now, by the way, biopoetry and about yourself, when anybody else puts themselves to pen, once you put it on a piece of paper, it looks different, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely. And sometimes it's different even in your head than it is on the paper.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you're going through a lot of stuff in your life, when you put it on paper, sometimes you can sit back and take a look at it, and you look at it through different eyes.
True.
Different perspective.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. It kind of helps you breathe in a way. It can take some of the pressure out of something and give it a whole new, give it a chance to breathe and to work through things.
Now, by the way, when you put it all together and you got through what you got through, and so many people probably have the same story in and of themselves and to different degrees, when other people have read the poetry, have they seen themselves? Have they seen that bright, that light in there that says, okay, maybe you should take a look at things differently?
Yes, I think they have. I think I've inspired quite a few people, and that's kind of what my goal was. In fact, one particular lady whose quote's on the back of the book, she said, "Your words quietly dance past my hard shell exterior right to the part of my heart that still believes in love, and I like it." And that was probably a real profound thing for me. And soon after that, she was kind of a self-proclaimed, I'm not into love, I'm not into anything, I'm tired of the hurt. And she's since fallen in love and opened her heart, and, she saw hope in a lot of what I wrote.
No, by the way, the poetry and going through that bad time, did you get divorced and remarry?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm remarried to a wonderful, wonderful man.
Would you venture to guess that it was the poetry that caused you to see him?
In some ways, yes, because when I actually met him the first time, I was just on a friend level with him for several years, and I had been writing some and going through some things, and then I met him again. A couple of times we met, and the very last time we met, it was just my heart was in a whole new place. Yeah,
and sometimes we're allowed to see things that we didn't see before, kind of bringing the invisible up to the table.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, and isn't that what poetry really does? If you really look at it. Now, I'm not a poet, I'm not a writer, but it's almost like an artist with a canvas, except it's words.
It is very much so. It is. It's very artistic. It's very, it's kind of like music is, but it's poetry. It's kind of like art is painting. Anything you do to express yourself in some kind of artistic way, other than the norm, I think takes it to a whole new level.
Sure, and I think the great thing about poetry, you create a poem, and all of the words in the poem you have certain images in your head that you put them to pen, those images become words. Somebody else are going to see the words and they'll maybe see different images.
Correct.
And you can have so many people looking at that same poem, walking away with something completely different that maybe will touch their heart in a way that you hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, that's really an interesting perspective, and that's true, I think, because everything is open to perspective, and to touch somebody in such a way that you didn't even realize by your words is a pretty powerful thing.
Now, by the way, what do you plan to do with it? You've got the book going. What comes next?
I'm really working hard on the book right now. I am doing a lot of book signings. I actually got fortunate enough to get the opportunity to meet a lady at the public library where we live, too, and it's a rather large library, and they're going to give me the opportunity actually to do a presentation on my book as biopoetry and as just the process I went through for the publishing. And I'm very excited about that because that's a whole new experience for me, and it opens it up more to share with more people. And then after that, I already have my next book written. I just need to work on the illustrations, and that's a child's book, a children's book called Lola the Little Green Ladybug.
By the way, kids learn from that, and interestingly, we give them something that they can relate to, and if there's a strong enough message within it, it causes them to question. Yeah. And if they question, it allows the parents to bond with them, and that could change the very foundation of who they're going to be as adults.
True, very much true. And the book that I wrote, that I just told you about, is kind of one of those lesson books. It's about a little girl that is born green. She's a ladybug that's, I said that backwards, a little ladybug that's, yes, born green, but she's in a world of red ladybugs. And it talks about how her family and how her life goes, and how just because you're different and unique, you can celebrate that, and it doesn't have to be something that makes you different in a bad way.
Yeah, and by the way, today, especially in today's world where there's so much difference and so much uniqueness and as multicultural as we are today, I think those lessons need to be learned. Those foundations have to be there. It's very confusing for these kids to grow up with all of the different messages they get hit with, and they don't have the ability and the experience and the time vested in their lives to be able to filter through it.
This is very true. There's so much more out there than what we went through when we were kids. We had the opportunity to grow a little bit slower and learn a little bit slower and absorb things, and now it's just all out there. And it takes, stopping and piecing through it all and having,
Okay, I'll tell you something, but you got to promise this is our secret.
Yes.
You don't tell anybody.
Okay.
Done. Okay. I remember that our first television that we got was like 7 inches. and it had a bubble on it to make it bigger. And I will never forget that as long as I live. And then we finally got color. The color was a plastic sheet, and on the bottom it was green, it was orange in the middle, and blue on the top.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, so we were one step ahead of everybody else in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it worked real well.
Right.
We're starting to run out of time. Let me ask you this. Do you have a website we can find you at?
I do. It's www.alaurilee.com, and Alaurilee is spelled ALAURILEE.
And .com. And we've got it. Laura, thanks you so much for joining us. I've appreciated the time. Book sounds wonderful.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night.
You were a man of distinction, a real big spender.